Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to neutrally unpack a really fascinating and honestly kind of mind-bending philosophical theory by a thinker named Zhu Feng. It's called the constant nature of all actions. Basically, we're diving into a deeply deterministic idea here. It's the concept that absolutely everything in our universe, from the massive orbits of planets all the way down to your morning routine, is governed by unbreakable constant laws. Now, this perspective definitely challenges how we normally think about randomness and free will, but whether you end up agreeing with it or not, it offers an incredibly structured lens for viewing reality. So let's get into it.
Here's how we're going to break this down today. We'll start with the rule of constancy, zoom out from the cosmos to physics, and then zoom back in to constancy in our daily lives. After that, we'll hit the law of causality, look at how this theory refutes universal impermanence, and finally, wrap up with how chaos fits into these rules.
All right, part 1, the rule of constancy, and defining the fundamental laws of the universe. To really grasp this philosophy, we first need to understand what the source material is actually talking about. Let's break down two key terms. First up, constancy. Now, in this context, constancy doesn't just mean staying exactly the same forever. It means a normal state, a strict law, a guiding principle, or an established trajectory. Next, we have all actions. This is super broad. It literally means the movements and changes of absolutely all things. So put it together, and the text is arguing that there is no such thing as an independent, truly random event. Instead, all actions, meaning the movements and changes of everything around us, strictly adhere to an internal law or trajectory. They create one massive, unified universe. Nothing just randomly operates outside of it. To give you an idea of the sheer scale of this, the text drops this really powerful quote. The heavenly net is vast and fine, yet nothing escapes it. The author is essentially saying that the entire universe is governed by the spirit of the greatest creator, or the Tao. And this force, it's infinitely expansive on the outside, covering the whole cosmos, but it's also incredibly detailed on the inside, reaching right down to the smallest atom. It's like a net woven so perfectly tight that absolutely nothing can slip through and become a random fluke.
Moving on to part 2. From cosmos to physics, let's look at some macro-level evidence for these laws.
To back up this grand theory, the author points us straight to the big stuff, the macro level. I mean, just look up at the night sky. Earth, Mars, the Moon, Saturn, they aren't just wandering aimlessly out there in the void, right? They adhere strictly to the laws of the solar system. There is zero randomness. They move by absolute necessity. And we feel this macro constancy right here at home with the seasons. Spring is always followed by summer. Autumn is always followed by winter. It's an undeniable, perfectly predictable rhythm that has just kept looping throughout the ages.
And this brilliantly illustrates a key point. What might look superficially like a complex, chaotic universe is actually totally bound by rigid physical laws. We're talking gravity dictating how objects attract, the laws of motion ensuring things only move when acted upon, the rule of equal and opposite reactions, or even just the exact upward force of buoyancy. These are all rules of constancy. The text argues that when we just casually glance at the world, things might seem unpredictable, but the second you dig a little deeper, boom, you find these ironclad physics laws calling the shots on every single interaction.
Which brings us to part 3, constancy in daily life and the inescapable rules of human existence. You know, we don't even have to look at space or dust off a physics textbook to see this in action. Just like those rotating seasons we talked about, the human experience is governed by its very own inescapable trajectory. We're talking birth, aging, illness, and eventually death. The text points out that no matter how many wild, unpredictable factors or totally chaotic events get thrown into your life, this foundational pattern, this constancy of the human life cycle, is entirely inescapable for every single one of us.
But it gets way more granular than that. On a totally mundane, everyday level, things just operate on fixed inputs and predictable outputs. Think about it. Water is always going to freeze below zero. Gasoline is going to ignite if you put a match to it. Or, as the text points out, if you prep a raw steamed bun, apply heat, and wait about 15 minutes, well, that bun is going to be predictably completely cooked. It's a super simple example, sure, but it hits the nail on the head. The universe operates on reliable, repeatable rules. The text actually gives us a rapid-fire list of these daily constants just to really drive it home. Eat raw onions with honey, which, yeah, I absolutely do not recommend, and you are guaranteed some severe digestive issues. Prolonged visual strain harms your blood. Prolonged sitting harms your muscles. If you drive recklessly, the constant law says you're going to cause an accident. On the flip side, if you clean up your room and add some plants, the natural reaction is an uplifted spirit. The author is reminding us that whether it's the fatal result of a chemical mixture or just how a tidy room makes us feel better, absolutely every action has a hard-coded reaction. All right, part 4, the law of causality, exploring cause and effect in human behavior.
So now we're stepping into a more philosophical realm. It's one thing to say that gravity and cooking follow rules, right? But the source material argues that these exact same rigid laws govern human behavior and morality through causality. Using a bunch of traditional proverbs, the text shows that behavioral inputs yield guaranteed outputs, like sow melons and you will reap melons, sow beans and you will reap beans. The author says this isn't just cute, folksy wisdom, it's a literal articulation of the universe's constant law. For example, heaven predictably rewards diligence, while a lifetime of wrongdoing will inevitably, almost mathematically, lead straight to self-destruction.
The argument goes even further, stating that our broader societal patterns and our internal psychological states are totally bound by constancy, too. Comfort and plenty lead to indulgence. Hunger and cold stir up theft. Things like arrogance, predictably leading to harm, or deep calmness, reliably bringing mental clarity, these aren't just random flukes of human nature. They are constant laws of cause and effect. You plug a specific psychological or social input into the system, and the universe spits out a mandated output.
Section 5, Refuting Universal Impermanence, where we challenge some traditional philosophy.
Okay, having built up this massive mountain of evidence, the text makes a really sharp pivot. It asks, is everything in the universe actually impermanent? The author directly challenges the 1,000-year-old Buddhist teaching that all things are impermanent, and actually classifies this widely held belief as a fundamental misconception. Let's look at why the author thinks accepting that is such a dangerous idea.
The explainer basically says we have two vastly different ways to view reality here. On one side, you've got universal impermanence. This is the idea that everything is random, chaotic, wildly unpredictable, and totally lacks a grand trajectory. The author argues that if we genuinely believed this, we'd just live aimlessly. We'd be in a state of confusion, totally unable to trust any system or logic in life. But on the other side, we have constancy. Under this view, the world is grounded. It's governed by steady rules, firm principles, and reliable trajectories, which is exactly what allows us to take purposeful action.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this. Without constancy, basically all human endeavor would be entirely impossible. Think about it. If the universe were truly random, we couldn't even make weather forecasts. Scientific exploration? Totally pointless, because experiments wouldn't be repeatable. We couldn't plant seeds in the spring and ever expect an autumn harvest. Even spiritual cultivation, or just expecting some kind of cosmic retribution for good and evil deeds, requires a universe that operates on reliable rules. If everything is just impermanent and random, our actions wouldn't have any guaranteed meaning.
Finally, part 6, Chaos Within the Rules, looking at the butterfly effect and the ultimate synthesis.
As we wrap up this theory, we naturally have to ask, well, what about the extreme unpredictability of life? What about all that apparent chaos we see in the news, literally every single day? The author synthesizes these opposing ideas by acknowledging that, yes, the universe is highly sensitive, and it's holographic. A single straw really can break a camel's back. Tiny, microscopic inputs can have massive outputs. But, and this is absolutely key, the text argues that this sensitivity does not mean there are no rules.
Take the famous butterfly effect, for example. We've all heard that a butterfly flapping its wings in Alaska might somehow cause a storm down at the Cape of Good Hope. The author acknowledges this extreme complexity, for sure, but insists that even this butterfly effect operates strictly within the laws of physics and causality. The wind currents, the atmospheric pressure changes, it is all following the rules. It's not evidence that the rules don't exist, it's actually profound proof of incredibly complex, interconnected ones.
The author draws a really fascinating conclusion on how change actually happens. The text states, without reaching a critical juncture of qualitative change, things will continue along their inherent trajectories. Basically, what this means is that no matter how many crazy, unknown variables hit an object or a person or a society, everything just stays on its inherent, law-abiding track right up until a specific, mathematically certain critical saturation point is reached. The laws themselves never actually break, they just hit their thresholds. Which brings us right to our conclusion. We want to leave you with this final thought. If Shufang's theory is correct, and the orbit of Mars, the boiling of a kettle in your kitchen, and your daily moral choices all follow the exact same foundational principle of constancy, well, if every tiny action really is contained within this unbreakable, grand law, how does that shift the way you view the chaotic choices you make today? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. And as always, we encourage you to keep questioning the world around you.